Okay, so once again, good morning to all. So our today's session objectives are the remaining non-ideal VI characteristic of MOSFET. Yesterday we completed one of that characteristic, and that is finite output impedance or resistance. Then the next non-ideal characteristics are like body effect, subthreshold conduction, then various breakdown effects which occurs in MOSFET, and the temperature effect. So we'll going on to discuss in detail with all these non-ideal VI characteristic under these objectives. Okay. So see, yesterday we already completed this first one, that is finite output impedance or finite output resistance. No need to explain it again. The same thing I tried to uh, shown here. So you will observe by changing VDS, there is slightly change in ID after that pinch off level, and due to that small delta ID, we can say the output impedance offered by the device in its saturation region, it will be finite instead of infinite. If that line is perfectly a horizontal line or parallel to x-axis, then delta ID will be 0, and the resistance, that is nothing but that small arrow which is equals to delta VDS by delta ID, it will become infinite. So yesterday also I highlighted it will look like the controversy, because if the resistance or impedance of the device is infinite, current flowing through it will be 0. But as per the our previous discussion as well as the things shown over here, you will observe there is non-zero ID, correct now, and it increases slightly by increasing sufficiently VDS, and hence the actual drain current equation, it comes as ID equals to K times VGS minus VT bracket square into 1 plus lambda VDS. That lambda also yesterday I told it is nothing but the channel length modulation factor. What is meant by that channel length modulation, that also yesterday we discussed in detail. And K, it is a conduction parameter, you are already familiar with that. And if that channel length modulation factor is neglected, or if it is negligible or considered as a 0, then this drain current equation approximately becomes as ID equals to K times VGS minus VT bracket square. Okay. So this first non-ideal we will skip, and now we'll go for the next one, and that is the body effect. Okay. See, based on this topic, in your theory exam, question may get asked, explain in detail any four, or in general, explain in detail the non-ideal VI characteristic of MOSFET. And that question, it may be for 4 to 6 marks. Okay. So all these things you have to explain in detail under that question. You have to draw the diagrams also, so that it will be helpful to obtain the maximum marks to you. Okay. So the second characteristic, it is body effect, known as a body effect. Basically, see, whenever you might have seen the ICs, integrated circuits, during your first year practical, you might have used it during your digital practical, logic gates, correct? That ICs are mostly 14-pin ICs, somewhat small in size, almost. Their length, it is of almost 1 inch, and the width is of, we can say, almost 1 centimeter. So 1 inch by 1 centimeter, that is the width of that logic gate IC, almost, not exactly. Okay. So what is there inside that IC? Inside that IC, there are a number of transistors which are accommodated to generate that particular logic gate, or to have the characteristic of that particular logic gate, or to build that particular logic gate. A number of transistors are required. Then again, you might have seen somewhat another type of ICs like microcontroller ICs. They are almost, we can say, 2.5 inch in length, and their width are almost 1.5 centimeter. Okay. So in such ICs like microprocessor or microcontroller ICs, there are lakhs of transistors inside that small chip. Okay. So how it is possible to accommodate such type of large number of transistors? You might have heard again that ICs are basically divided into large scale integration, that is LSI. Then initially it is medium scale integration, then large scale integration, then very large scale integration, and that is nothing but VLSI. Okay, this word you might have heard. VLSI, it stands for very large scale integrations. So in such ICs, almost or the number of transistors are above 1 lakh. Okay, so how that such type of large density transistors can be accommodated within that small chip? That is nothing but the MOSFET scaling or scaling of transistor. That also today we will go on to cover what is meant by that scaling or how it is done. But due to that scaling, the size reduction can be acquired, and similarly another things are also there which can reduce the size of that number of, or we can say which can increase the density of number of transistors inside that single chip. Okay, so you will observe one thing here. See, whatever the example I shown, a substrate, P type of substrate is common. Okay, and there are two transistors, two MOSFETs are there. See, this one, this is the first MOSFET, which consists of again three terminals, that is S1, G1 and D1. That is nothing but source, gate and drain of first transistor. And these two regions are again source region, that is N plus, highly doped N type of semiconductor, which is acting as a S1, that is source of first transistor, and similarly another N type of semiconductor, highly doped, which is acting as a drain of that first transistor, right? And gate is again isolated from the substrate through that SiO2 layer. Okay. Similarly, the second transistor is also there, which consists of, or you will observe the drain region of first transistor, it is acting as a source region of second. That means this region, N plus region, it is common to both transistors. For first transistor, it is acting as a drain, and for second transistor, it is acting as source. Is it okay? Am I audible properly?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So remember, for first transistor, D1, it is again acting as a S2 for second. That means this region is common, right now. Why it is common? If a separate two transistors are to be built over here, you will observe one more extra N region will be required for the second transistor. So instead of that, if one is common to both, one region is common to both, that will going on to automatically reduce the size, right now. Now, by reduction the size of that device, what happens? See again, as per your our previous discussion, if I want to turn on this first transistor only, which consists of S1, G1 and D1, what we will do? We will going to apply somewhat positive potential to the drain with respect to its source. For example, if that VDD, which is applied to the drain with respect to source, is of 12 volt, plus 12, that means drain will be at plus 12. Okay, then there will be no flow of current from drain to source of that first transistor. So to have the flow of current through it, what we will require? We will require somewhat non-zero positive gate voltage for the first transistor, right now. And non-zero as well as how much? It should be greater than its VT, equals to VT or greater than its VT, correct? Then and then there will be a flow of current from drain to source, correct? So for example, if the VT1, that means threshold voltage required for this first transistor, if it is of, we can say 1 volts, correct? Then there will be a flow of current. We will just consider it. Now, this first transistor, it is biased already, and if that second transistor also I have to turn on. So what we have to do? Again, we have to apply some positive drain voltage to its terminal, and similarly somewhat gate voltage to its gate terminal, or VGS to its gate terminal, correct now? Then and then again there will be flow of current to the second transistor from its drain terminal to source terminal. Okay, but what difference you are observing in this case? See, for first transistor, whatever VDS is there, it is the voltage applied to the drain of that first transistor with respect to source, and the source is shown as a grounded. Is it? That means VD1 minus VS1, that is the VDS1, correct? And that VDS1 will be equals to VDD almost, correct? Because source terminal it is grounded, it is at zero potential. That means the potential difference between drain to source of first transistor, it is nothing but the voltage available at the drain terminal of that transistor itself. Is it? That means VDS1 is equals to VD1 minus VS1, where VS1 it is 0 because source terminal of that transistor is grounded, right? So that will be the VDS1. Now for second transistor, how much will be the VDS2? That will be equals to VD2 minus VS2. But the source terminal of that second transistor, it is not grounded. Where it is? It is at the same potential as that of drain of first. Are you getting it? That means the potential difference for second transistor between drain to source, it is different as compared to potential difference between drain to source of first transistor. And hence, there is need of somewhat another threshold voltage for second transistor. That means we can say VT2 will be required more as compared to VT1. Are you getting it? So to turn on the second transistor, due to the potential difference between drain to source, the threshold voltage required for second transistor is different as compared to first transistor. Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So here I mentioned that there is variation in VT also, and this is known as what? Body effect. Clear? So we'll switch to next, another non-ideal characteristic of MOSFET, and that is nothing but sub-threshold conduction. From the diagram given, you can conclude by yourself also. Small difference you might have observed in this characteristic, and that is nothing but which characteristic? This one. This is the transfer characteristic, right now. So see, in this characteristic, generally in transfer characteristic, what we are saying, whenever the applied VGS, I think by mistake I written here VDS, huh? It should be VGS. Okay, this x-axis, this should be VGS axis. Okay, so in general, what we are saying, whenever that get to source voltage is less than threshold voltage, how much is the output current? If input voltage, that is VGS, is less than VT, threshold voltage of that transistor, how much is the output current? You already learned it. So many lectures.
0 or close to
Yes,
0.
yes. That current, it remains 0, right now. And whenever that VGS is equals to VT or greater than VT, then current also gets increased exponentially, correct? By increasing the VGS. And that's why that current equation also I written ID equals to K times VGS minus VT bracket square. Okay. So due to the fabrication of that number of transistors on a single chip, its disadvantage is what? Even if that applied VGS is less than VT of that particular transistor, then there is small amount of current. You will observe this characteristic, it is somewhat above the x-axis. It is not on the x-axis up to VT, is it? If it is on the x-axis up to VT, it indicates what? Whenever VGS is less than VT, current remains 0. But if it is slightly above the x-axis, it indicates what? Even if that applied VGS is less than VT, small amount of current flows to the device, right? So this amount of flow of current through the device, even if the applied VGS is less than VT, is known as sub-threshold conduction of that device. That's all. Okay, and its disadvantage, it is also mentioned here, sub-threshold conduction of the device in ICs, they causes the significant power dissipation. Significant power dissipation means what? Even if we are trying to keep that transistor in its off state by keeping that VGS less than VT, right? We are expecting the transistor should remain off as per the logic, but due to this sub-threshold conduction, there will be a small amount of flow of current, and hence unnecessarily there will be a power drop, right? And that's why it is mentioned in ICs, which causes the significant power dissipation. Unnecessary power losses or power dissipation will be there whenever we are expecting that VGS or we are expecting that transistor should remain off by keeping that VGS less than VT. Okay. Now the next one, that is breakdown effects for non-ideal VI characteristic of MOSFET. Again, see, you are well familiar. Just recall the construction of that MOSFET. There is one PN junction between drain to substrate, right? If it is an N-channel E MOSFET, then the drain region is of N type and substrate will be of opposite, that is P type of substrate. So there is a junction between the drain region and the substrate, okay? And generally we are keeping that drain terminal to the positive potential of that VDD. Or drain we are connecting generally to the positive of that DC source. So if that drain which is of N type is connected to the positive of that DC source, and substrate already I told, if that substrate it is already connected to the source or inbuilt, that connection is there, source and substrate are commonly connected with each other and they are powered by the negative terminal of that DC source. Means VDD, its negative terminal is connected to whom? To that source terminal or substrate terminal, right? Now in this case, as the substrate is of P type of semiconductor, and drain which is of N type is connected to the positive, that means what we are saying, there that PN junction which is formed between drain and substrate, that will be reverse bias, okay? Or it will be always in reverse bias condition. While studying that channel length modulation factor yesterday, also I explain all these things on the blackboard, so no need to again waste much more time on that. So here I will say, whenever we will going on to increase that VDD, or if that VDD or DC source is sufficiently large, then as the drain to substrate junction, PN junction is reverse bias, there may be a breakdown between that drain region and the substrate due to reverse biasing. And whenever PN junction gets break due to its reverse biasing, it is known as avalanche breakdown. That term you already studied in first year also. What is meant by that avalanche breakdown, or when it occurs in case of PN junction? If that PN junction is sufficiently or highly reverse biased beyond its reverse voltage handling capacity, then the junction gets break, which is known as a avalanche breakdown. Okay, so such type of breakdown can occur in case of MOSFET also, and if it is occurred, then it is known as a avalanche breakdown, and where it will be, it will be in between drain and substrate region, or the junction between drain region and substrate. Okay, so this is the first type of breakdown that may occur in case of MOSFET. Then the second type of breakdown which occur in between drain region and the induced channel. See, yesterday while studying that channel length modulation, whenever that VDS or VDD is sufficiently large, the width of that channel, it gets shrink at the edge of that drain region, because that depletion region, it gets expand in that channel. It tries to expand in channel region. Okay, and whenever it gets expand in channel region, automatically the channel width in that region or around that junction between drain and substrate, it gets reduced, which is known as a channel length modulation. Okay, so if again that drain to source voltage is sufficiently large, the breakdown, it may occur between drain and the channel. Okay, and if it is occurred at that point, which is known as punch through breakdown, right? So you have to remember, if the breakdown occurs between drain and substrate region, then that type of breakdown is known as avalanche breakdown. If the breakdown is occurred between drain and the channel region, then it is known as punch through breakdown. Okay, now there is another type of breakdown may occur in case of MOSFET. Again, if the applied VGS is sufficiently large, get to source voltage, if it is sufficiently large, then as we know, the electric field gets generated at the gate region, but that charge carrier do not get transferred either towards the substrate or from substrate to gate because of SiO2, correct? So if that gate to source voltage is sufficiently large, it causes excessive electric field in the oxide, that is that insulator, that is nothing but SiO2 right now, which is in between that gate region, or we can say gate material and the channel or the substrate. between drain and source regions. Okay, so due to that excessive electric field at the gate, there may be a chance of breakdown between gate and the channel. Okay, if that breakdown occurs between gate material or gate terminal and the induced channel, then that type of breakdown is known as snapback breakdown. So there are three types of breakdowns, chances of three types of breakdowns in case of MOSFET, and that are avalanche breakdown, punch through breakdown, and third one is snapback breakdown. Out of these three, avalanche breakdown occurs between drain and substrate. Punch through breakdown, it occurs between drain and the induced channel. Okay, and third one, that is snapback breakdown, it occurs between gate and the channel. So is it clear now? Any doubt? Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And now the last one, that is temperature effect, fifth non-ideal characteristic of that MOSFET. So remember one thing, increase in temperature of that device, it increases the threshold voltage. For example, for a particular device, if the manufacturer mentions it as that threshold voltage as Vt, okay, is equals to 1 volts. But whenever the temperature of that device gets increased, whenever we are using it, then the value of that Vt also gets increased. Okay, increase in temperature increases Vt. See, here it is mentioned. If the temperature of that device it increases, then it will going on to increase its required threshold voltage and thus decrease in ID, and vice versa for the given VGS. Okay. Now again, one more thing, the mobility of charge carriers decreases by rise in temperature. Okay, the mobility of charge carrier. Do you know about this mobility of charge carriers? That is nothing but in our language we can say the speed of that charge carriers. Okay, so that mobility of charge carrier it gets decreased if there is increase in temperature, and thus again it will go on to decrease the ID, because ID is nothing but what? It is nothing but the flow of the charge carriers from drain to source region, right now. So if the mobility of that charge carrier between that drain to source decreases by increasing the temperature, what we can say, there will be decrease in ID. Okay. Now the third point, the temperature dependence mobility. The temperature dependence mobility is large than that of threshold voltage. Compare first two points. The temperature dependence mobility, it is large as compared to threshold voltage, and therefore it maintains the temperature stability of that device. Okay, you have to remember this one. The temperature dependence mobility, it is large as compared to the required increase in Vt. It will go on to maintain the stability of that device. That means what? The change in temperature will not going on to affect the working of MOSFET, and hence what we can say, the thermal runaway. You might have heard this word while studying the BJT. Thermal runaway means what? Due to increase in temperature, if continuous there is increase in charge carriers, number of charge carriers, then at a particular level of temperature, the density of that charge carrier increases in such a way that that device gets damaged permanently. That is known as a thermal runaway. Okay, runaway means it gets damaged, and due to what? Because of temperature, and that's why that term it is named as thermal runaway. Okay, so in case of MOSFET, thermal runaway do not occurs, and that is one of the best comparison point between MOSFET and BJT. In case of BJT, or we can see in case of diode also, that thermal runaway occurs, but in case of MOSFET it do not. Okay, so you have to remember this comparative point. Again, I collected all this information. Already I mentioned the names for this subject, book names for this subject as Donnell and Niemann, electronic circuits analysis and design, and second one that that will be mostly useful to you, that is Boylston and Neshelski, that is electronic devices and circuit theory. So I will suggest you prefer the second book. Okay, and whatever the diagrams I shown, that is the output characteristic, that is for finite output impedance, or to show the threshold conduction or that body effect, all that I prepared by myself, and that's why I mentioned that third point, construction and characteristics own prepared. Okay, but if you want to learn in detail, then go for through this second book, Boylston and Neshelski, that is Electronic Devices and Circuit Theory. Its soft copy is also available on my Google Classroom. You just download it and just take the print and spiral binding. That will be useful to you throughout your career. Okay. So in summary, so you might have understood all these non-ideal characteristics. Hope so. So we'll stop this slide show here, and we'll go for the next topic, and that is nothing but the another type of amplifier, which is known as a source follower. Okay. So is it okay up to previous discussion regarding that non-ideal characteristics? See, all these topics are almost theoretical topics, and that's why I'm using this PowerPoint presentation. Okay. Whenever there will be a need of mathematical expression or explanation in detail, then I will go on to prefer the blackboards. Okay. So is it okay up to previous topic?
Yes, sir.
Now we'll go for the
Yes, sir.
next one, and through this PowerPoint, the objectives are source follower circuit. What is mean by source follower? Then features as compared to common source configuration. See, don't get confused between these two words, source follower and common source. While studying the BJT and its various configurations, in BJT you might have studied like common base configuration, common collector configuration, common emitter configuration. Similarly, in case of MOSFET, there are also three types of configurations, and that are common source, then common drain, and common gate. Okay, the source follower is nothing but the common drain. Source follower is also known as common drain configuration, right? As that word itself indicates, common what? Common any one terminal out of that three, and remaining two will going on to act as the input and output, right? So this source follower is nothing but common drain configuration, in which gate will be the input and source terminal will be the output, while drain will remain common. Okay, and that's why it is known as, another name is also there, source follower. Why it is known as source follower, that also I will explain while explaining the working of that given circuit. Then its features, or how it will differ in terms of various its features or characteristics or parameters as compared to that common source, which we already studied in detail. This CS configuration we already studied in detail. Right now, we done the DC analysis, we done the AC analysis, then we work out how that common source CS MOSFET amplifier circuit works, and how to determine its various parameters like AV, RI, RO, etc., etc. Then its merits and demerits and applications. Okay. So see, you can easily compare the shown circuit with the previous, to which you are now well familiar. Okay. In this case, you will observe almost all components remains as it is. That means there is a voltage divider, there is a drain current limiting resistor, there is a source current limiting resistor, that is RS. But the difference is what? That input is also applied again same as that of that previous configuration, that is CS configuration, to the gate terminal. Only the difference is what? The output is taken out from source. See here, that VO is mentioned at the source terminal with respect to that common line. Okay, while nothing is connected to the drain terminal. That drain terminal, it is only connected to the power line or the DC source. Okay, if the output is taken out from drain terminal as per our previous discussion, then it will be common source configuration. That means input is to the gate and output is from drain. Then that will be common source, because only one terminal remains, that is source terminal, and that's why that configuration is known as common source configuration. In this case, you will observe the output is taken out from source and input is connected to again the gate terminal. Okay. Now, whenever we will going on to apply some input signal at its gate terminal, same as that of the previous amplifier, then you will observe the output will going on to follow the input. Okay. That means whenever input will be positive going, the same you will observe there is positive going this source voltage. Correct. That means what? This output will go on to follow the input, as well as there will not be a phase shift. 0-degree phase shift will be there between the applied input time varying signal and the obtained output time varying signal. And that's why it is titled as source follower. Output follows the input, and that's why source follower. Okay. See that first line I already mentioned, output follows the input, hence the name. Okay. So also, okay, again one more name is there for such type of configuration, that is known as a buffer. Buffer means what? Again, output follows the input without changing its amplitude. That means the amplitude of buffer circuit, it remains same to the input as well as output. Now question may get arise, then why we are calling it as amplifier, right? That means, for example, suppose 1 volt peak signal, if I am applying as an input to this amplifier, the same maximum 1 volt output signal I can obtain. Then what is use, or why we are calling it as amplifier? But the difference is that in case of this common source, this common drain or buffer, or yes, this source follower, the main feature is what? Its current gain is very high. In case of common source configuration, voltage gain is high. Yesterday we done that practical also, and we got that gain, voltage gain at 30, right? But the current gain of that common source configuration, it is very small. While the current gain of this CD configuration or buffer circuit or source follower circuit, it is very high as compared to common source, and that is its advantage, right? And already I mentioned 0-degree phase shift between input and output. Voltage gain maximum possible is unity. We can't obtain the voltage gain greater than unity by this configuration. But then what will be its use? If we require the current gain more as compared to voltage gain, then we have to go for this configuration, that is common drain configuration. So for this CD configuration or source follower, the current gain will be very high, and as the current gain will be very high, we can say the power gain will be very high, overall power gain. Okay, yes, it is mentioned thus power gain high. Another feature is input impedance. Again, it is very high as the input is applied to the gate with respect to source, it is same. Okay, output impedance, it is low, and I mentioned one point, and gets decided by RS. Why I mentioned this line here, and gets decided by RS? Because whenever you will go on to draw the AC equivalent, see, whenever we have to determine the input output impedances as well as gain, then that will be the AC analysis. And for AC analysis, the first step is draw the AC equivalent circuit. So for this shown one, if you try to apply, draw the AC equivalent, then output impedance, that is looking from the output side, that means you have to look from here, is it, where the VO is shown. This CO will be going to act as a short circuit, correct? So what you will observe, there is a RS directly, correct? And hence it is mentioned it gets decided by RS, but we can't exceed this RS sufficiently large, because it will be going to shift the operating point of that transistor. So it should be proper RS. Okay, so the output impedance of this amplifier, it will get decided by the selected value of this RS, and hence, as already I mentioned, the current gain is very high, so it is mostly known as current amplifier, and as the current gain is high, it can be also known as power amplifier. Okay, so this is the basic difference between that common source and common drain. Input output signal waveforms shown here, it indicates what? There is no phase shift between input and output. That input signal shown by purple color and the output signal by orange, both are in phase. So remember, for CD configuration or source follower, there is 0-degree phase shift between input and output voltage waveforms. So you might have again understood what is meant by that source follower, what is the features of that CS configuration as compared to CS configuration, its merits and demerit. Demerit is what? Its voltage gain maximum achieved can be unity, and merit is its current gain is very high, and applications, that is nothing but as a power amplifier. Okay, So is it okay now? Yes or no? Or are you getting confused today? No need to get confused. This topic is not that much tough, and that's why I'm taking somewhat fastly. Okay. And the last topic of this unit, that is nothing but scaling. Already I told, today we will be going to discuss on that. What is meant by that MOSFET scaling? Scaling means, remember, reduction in its dimensions, to scale down, to decrease the dimensions without disturbing the performance parameter of that transistor. Okay. Then what is need of that MOSFET scaling, and what is that scaling ratio, etc. That we will go on to discuss under these objectives. So MOSFET scaling, already I mentioned, the reduction of the size, that is the dimension of MOSFET, is commonly referred as a scaling. Okay. Now why there is need of MOSFET? So remember, already I told, you might have seen that integrated circuits, ICs, which you prefer during your digital practical, or you might have seen somewhat large scale integrated circuit, that is ICs, that microcontroller or microprocessor ICs, which contains a large number of transistors above 1 lakh, and that's why it is known as very large scale integration. Okay. If it is small scale integration, that means very few number of transistors, then it is known as SSI, small scale integration, then medium scale integration, then large scale integration, and last one is very large scale integration. Okay. So to acquire or to improve the density, number of that component, number of transistor inside that small chip, there is need to scale down the size of that transistor. Okay. That is the reduction in the size of transistor, already I mentioned here, so that high packaging density can be achieved. Now how it is reduced? So there are two scaling factors. By using that scaling factor only, we have to reduce, we have to scale down that particular transistor. Okay. So that scaling factors are known as 1 by alpha factor and 1 by beta factor. Out of these two, 1 by beta scaling factor, it is used to scale down the supply voltage, that is VDD, right, and gate oxide thickness. So this 1 by beta factor, it is only used to scale down the applied VDD and gate oxide thickness. What is that gate oxide thickness? That is nothing but our SiO2, right now. So the thickness of that oxide layer, it should get reduced by 1 by beta factor. Similarly, how much VDD we can apply, that also gets reduced by 1 by beta factor. Okay. And remaining linear dimensions, that is nothing but we can say the width of the drain region, source region, then channel length, etc., or channel thickness, etc. It gets scaled down by 1 by alpha. How it is scaled down or how it looks, now that I will show you. Right. So see here, I drawn one diagram. Cut section for that MOSFET is shown. This first one, is it visible to all properly?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So towards this left side, okay, by brown color region, suppose this is drain region and this one is source region. I shown there is nothing inside that drain and source. Okay, because there will be a formation of channel by applying somewhat gate voltage. Right. This gray color, this is nothing but our that gate terminal or gate region. Below that gate region, there is one yellow colored plate, you will observe, is it? So it is nothing but what? It is a oxide layer, which is shown by yellow color. Okay, this is a oxide layer. And this top layer, that is for polysilicon layer, that is nothing but our gate terminal, we can say, or gate region. Okay. So you will observe the thickness of, already I told, the thickness of that oxide layer, it is scaled down by 1 by beta factor. If the thickness of that oxide layer, if we call it as capital D, it will, for the scale transistor, it will be capital D by beta. It will get reduced. Correct? So you will observe here, channel width W, that can be scaled down to 1 by alpha, because this 1 by beta, it is only to scale down for that oxide thickness and supply voltage, and remaining all dimensions will get scaled down by 1 by alpha. So you will observe the same thing here. Channel width, that is W, this one, it is scaled down by alpha. If originally it is W, then for the scale transistor, it will be W by alpha. Similarly, its thickness of that polysilicon layer or that gate region, it will get, if it is small t, polysilicon thickness, small t, it gets scaled down to T by alpha. Here it is mentioned, correct? That means it will be thin, very thin as compared to the original. Original thickness is small t and scaled down thickness will be T by alpha, right? Then the channel length, L, it gets scaled down again by 1 by alpha. That channel length, this is nothing but the length between drain and source region. So originally, if it is capital L, then this for scale transistor, it will be L by beta. Sorry, by mistake, it is written as L by beta. It is L by alpha. This channel length L, it gets scaled down to L by alpha. Correct? Just do this change over here. It will be L by alpha. It is not L by beta, because that 1 by beta, it is used only for oxide thickness and supply voltage, right? And similarly, thickness of drain and source region, it gets scaled down to again 1 by alpha, because all remaining linear dimensions get scaled down by 1 by alpha. So the thickness here, the thickness of this source region I shown, originally if it is X, then for the scale transistor it will be X by alpha. Is it clear? Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so today we covered all these topics, and hence our first unit is also completed.